Hey y'all, it's Sherry G. Welcome to the channel. So in today's video, I want to talk about the Cheministry episode that aired on Fox Soul yesterday. The segment was the blueprint for a healthy marriage, and Letitia and Marceau Scott were on panel. There were three couples in all that were on panel for this particular episode. And so I want to talk about that. I didn't watch the whole episode. I kind of skipped around just to get some key pieces, just to get a better feel for Letitia and Marceau as people. And, outside of what we see on the show. That's why I was interested. Because you know that a lot of people drag them as far as their relationship and their marriage. I even said so myself that something seemed a little bit off as far as what she desires in a marriage and what he desires in a marriage. But anyway, I'll get into that in just a minute. First of all, keep in mind that everything expressed in this video, all the views expressed are alleged of my opinion and those who choose to comment down below in the comment section, and it is all for entertainment. So getting back to the episode with Cheministry yesterday, the blueprint for a healthy marriage, I thought it was a pretty interesting episode, and that the questions that the host asked and the way they elaborated on the answers and expounded on their own viewpoints was pretty interesting. And like I said, I was only interested in watching it because of Marceau, and Letitia. We see them on the show. We get one thing from the show, and I just wanted to get my own personal, some more insight. And I just want to preface, before I give any of my commentary, I want to preface by saying that every relationship does not look the same. Every marriage does not look the same. So what I take from this blueprint that they gave is that you pick what you need to pick for you. I don't think there is a real blueprint because, first of all, the individuals in every marriage is different, and the all of the circumstances around each marriage is different. So I feel like we get into trouble in our marriages when we try to fit them in a mold, when we try to follow someone else's blueprint. I think you can glean things from different people, you can learn things from different people, but you have to move through your relationship by understanding yourself, your spouse, and all of the other dynamics, people involved, things that happen, all of those other dynamics that resolve or revolve around your relationship. So I want to preface by saying that. With that said, I did find this segment to be pretty interesting. So one of the questions that was asked was, what made you choose marriage? So Marceau answered that he talked about when he met Letitia, and he said that they were working at the same place, and when she walked in, he couldn't take his eyes off of her. And he said to her, "You look like a real woman." And then to answer the question, what made him choose marriage, he started reminiscing about a time when he was flipping houses. He was 27 years old when they met. He was flipping houses, and he had to go to Home Depot, and she went with him, and he was picking out tile for this particular home. And as he picked out the tile, she wrapped her arm around him, and she said, "That looks good." And to him, it felt like, she believes in me. So from that point, he felt like he should marry her. When Tisha was asked the question, she said that she was working on her degree, she was in school, and she wasn't thinking about marriage. But she said that she was working on herself first. So I found that to be interesting. Anyway, I'm going to just leave that right there and just continue. It just seems to me right there they were kind of disjointed. But I'm just going to leave that right there. Um, well, maybe not. Okay, so she said that she was working on herself and she wanted to get her degrees. So then I was reminded of the conversation that she had with Melody. And when she was saying that she felt, and I'm paraphrasing, trapped at home with the kids, that she had these degrees, that she wanted to get out and she wanted to get back into the working world. And Melody was going to give her some pointers on how to do that. But anyway, I feel that uh, when Letitia got into the marriage, in my opinion, based on this conversation and based on what we've seen on the show, Letitia and Marcel came in with two different ideas of marriage. Um, he came in my opinion, with someone looking for someone to support and back him up. She came into the marriage probably wanting to do the same thing, but also wanting the same thing from him, not wanting to be a housewife, and she expressed that before, but to be able to get out into the working world and do the things that she was interested in doing, yet still backing him in the things that he was doing. So that's why I said, to me, they seemed kind of disjointed when they first came into their marriage. I don't know if they had an in-depth conversation about what marriage looks like, et cetera, et cetera. But I do also remember Marceau saying that they had an agreement that she would be a housewife for 5 years. But she seemed to be surprised by that. So, a little bit confused about that. I don't know. You guys share your thoughts or remind me. Maybe I just missed something. So anyway, they went on, and one of the questions later was, the host addressed, well, we know about the whole thing about Letitia scheduling the sex. I mean, we've seen that piece all over the internet and everything. And how, the host said, well, it seems like a chore. And Letitia was like, well, yeah, well, you got to do what you got to do. I schedule date night and everything. So I just want to say that to me, that doesn't seem appealing. But if that works for them, that works for them. I'm not here to judge what works for them. I just, even in my 60s, can't see myself scheduling it, because to me, it just takes away from the passion and the intimacy part of it, and the surprise, every now and then, the surprise aspect. But yeah, I digress. So we all know about that question, and everyone's had their field day with that question. But she did ask Marceau, or reminded him of him stating in an interview that sex was the number one most important thing to him in a marriage. And I know there are a lot of people who feel that way. I personally feel that it is important, but not the number one most important thing. But I feel like this particular question, or this particular sentiment of Marceau, should have been something that he and Letitia discussed before getting married. And I'm not sure if they did, but I just feel that things like this are important to discuss. Like, what does marriage look like to you? What does it mean to you to get married? And what's the most important thing to you in a marriage? And then if I say, well, sex is the most important thing to me in a marriage, because if I'm not getting this, then I feel like I should be able to outsource. That was Marceau's sentiments regarding not getting it. Then there needs to be discussion about how we're going to handle it. So I feel that a lot of marriages run into trouble because they don't talk about these most important things. Like, don't have these type of questions. Everyone gets into the marriage with an assumption. Not everyone, but a lot of people get into a marriage with assumptions, or what your idea is, and he may have his idea, but you guys never really sit down and have these conversations that are so important and so necessary to, first of all, decide if you're going to go forward. And if you do decide to go forward, but your ideas are a little bit different. How do you compromise and make it work? One thing that he also mentioned, because I forget the lady's name, but she brought it up to Letitia. The question, okay, like the host brought up the question about Miss Wanda, and she wanted to know if Miss Wanda was the same toward Marceau as it pertains to he and Letitia's marriage in real life as we saw on the show. And Marceau said she was. He said it was a bone of contention for him in the marriage. And one of the other ladies kind of drugged Letitia about it and told her, in other words, that she needed to put up boundaries. But she told her, I'm telling you this in love. But Marceau mentioned that it is a bone of contention for him. And then the host asked, was she like this all the time? And is this really true? And he said 85% of the time. So then Letitia went on to explain that she knows it's a problem and she has tried to talk to her mom. But the thing for her, she, I guess, walks on eggshells because she doesn't want to ruin the relationship with her mom. Again, this is another thing that's really important to talk about before you get into a marriage. Like, how are we going to handle in-laws? How much are they going to be involved in our lives? And what if there is a disagreement or they don't accept me? How do we handle this, and how do we move forward? These things are very, very important. And then the next question that came up was around submission. And the gentleman who was helping to host this particular segment actually said to everyone that most church people only teach one side of this, and it's that the wife should be submissive to the husband, when in actuality they should be submissive to each other. And I have always said that people have this twisted and they have it wrong, and that they take things out of context and they just run with it. But especially in a lot of misogynistic relationships, they run off of that, and the men always like to remind the wife that you're supposed to be submissive. But it also says that the husband, that they should be submissive to one another, and that the husband should love the wife just as he loves himself. And that is pretty deep. And I'm not going to break all of that down here today, but I just thought that was pretty interesting. And again, this is another thing that needs to be discussed before you get into a marriage. Do you believe in gender roles? How do you feel about submission? When you hear the word submission, what does that mean to you? So anyway, I didn't come here to do a video to tear apart their marriage, because like I said, everybody's relationship doesn't look the same. Everybody's marriage is their marriage. And no matter how I personally feel about Marceau, and Letitia's marriage, it's really their business. She's choosing to stay. He's choosing to stay. He actually said that he's dealing with Wanda. He could put it to a stop, but he chooses to just deal with her because he loves his wife. So they know what they have, and they actually even mentioned that their marriage has been drug all through the internet and people just tearing it apart, but that it's actually made them stronger. So I'm hoping that that's true, because they have a lot of years together and they have 3 children that they need to raise. So somehow I hope they found their footing through all of this, and that they are stronger. And again, like I said, I'm not here to drag their marriage. Their marriage is their business. So anyway, that's all I have for you now. Until the next time, ciao. Oh, and if you haven't done so, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, because I will be back. Ciao.